Nightcrawler is undoubtedly one of the coolest characters from X-Men, and the blue-skinned, betaled the word? Almost devil-esque vision of him bamfing from place to place within any scene really is one more than worth beholding. He is a phenomenally cool character. His abilities are possibly the best representation of rapid teleportation going, and he's also a fascinating character in amongst that, as well as his powers. His faith is constantly butting up against everything he's doing, and he holds on to it despite the fact that the world seems to not want him to. He's just cool, and alongside being able to teleport everywhere, he can do a bunch of other stuff too, and I thought it would be fun to build him in D&D. Hello, I am Jason, and this is Dungeon Himbo, my channel where I talk about all stuff D&D. I do builds with a lot of third-party content. I do content reviews on D&D Beyond and beyond. That makes sense. And I do DM advice and player advice, theoretically, sometimes. And sometimes game design advice. It's a real mess. It's a higgledy-piggledy kind of thing, you know? You get the vibe. Today, though, it's not about that. It's about our favorite blue-skinned dude. So, who is Nightcrawler? Nightcrawler is a superhero from the Marvel Comics and is generally viewed as being one of the X-Men. His first appearance was all the way back in 1975, which is preposterous, and his real name is Kurt Wagner. He is a mutant who can not only teleport by shifting through an entirely different realm, one which he basically ignores as much as possible, but he also has yellow eyes, pointed ears, and a prehensile tail. He's also an incredibly powerful hand-to-hand combatant, and is the child of two women in the latest iteration of his lore, thanks to Mystique's shape-shifting abilities. He's just cool. And the scene of him zipping around in X2, the second X-Men film, all the way back in 2003, is one which has stuck with most of us, I think, who are old enough to have seen that. I am old enough to have seen that. How, then, do we capture all of this teleporting in D&D without having to rely on spell slots? This is not a magical ability, it is one given to him by his genes. So, we have to use a little bit of flavor and stuff, but let's get into it. The background was an interesting one. I really wanted to take Acolyte, because it feels fitting to him as a man of faith, and the idea of having Bless as any character that wouldn't normally have Bless is really tempting. But the feat I most want is linked to one of the D&D Beyond drops, the first batch in fact, which means I have to take the Pact Seeker background. You could still view this as it being his faith, him making a pact with God, if that's what you want to do. This gives us an ability score increase, none of which are useful, so just ignore those and put 2 points in Dex and 1 point in Con. We then get a Planar Pact feat, and we want the Fey Pact. This gives us the Sylvan language, if we don't already have it, the Druid Craft cantrip, which we're not really going to be using and doesn't really fit, and it makes us slightly better at Deception and Persuasion checks as well, which is handy enough. You also get one cantrip of your choice, and I'm going to take the Stalker's Eye cantrip. This allows us to give ourselves or another creature the ability to roll with advantage on the first attack they make before the spell ends, and the spell also augments your chance to crit, going up to a 19 to 20 at level 5, and then level 11 is 18 to 20, and level 17 is 17 to 20. So it's a solid one to cast at the very beginning of combat, just to come out of the gates swinging. Our stats initially are going to be 8 strength, 17 dexterity, 16 constitution, 8 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 8 charisma. For our species, Tiefling is super fitting. Tieflings also are basically mutants within the world of D&D. Born of other things, sure, but nevertheless. You get 30-foot speed, you can be small or medium, we're going for medium. They get dark vision, which makes perfect sense. And of the 3 fiendish legacies, I think Infernal fits Nightcrawler best, given that he's teleporting through a world of sulfur and brimstone by the smells of things. So, fire resistance, which is very handy. The Firebolt cantrip, which is useful sometimes. Hellish Rebuke, and the Darkness spell. Darkness feels like a really good fit here anyway. You get to choose your spellcasting modifier for that. We also get Thaumaturgy, which means you can be real loud if you need to, and some languages. For our class, I had a bit of trouble landing on this. I knew that I wanted to be able to dash as a bonus action. That's pretty important for one of the feats we're going to be taking. And that means effectively rogue or monk. Rogue could be good. Nightcrawler does use a rapier in a lot of his iterations, but he's primarily a hand-to-hand combatant, or is sometimes. It's also inconsistent with comic book stuff. So I thought it made sense actually to go with monk. Paladin was also tempting, specifically the Oath of the Eldritch Hunt from Steinhardt's Guide to the Eldritch Hunt, because that one lets you teleport as a bonus action every single turn. That would have been great, but it's still limited, and I don't want it to be limited. I want it to be constant, which means monk. Basically, all of that means monk. Monks are a lot stronger than they were in 5e. 5.5e gives them a fair amount of damage boosts, and more importantly, just a preposterous amount of tank boosts, actually. You are incredibly hard to hit and kill as a monk, especially at high levels. You get proficiency in all of your saving throws at level 13 or 14, and all sorts of other goodies. So let's talk through the first few levels, as we always do. Alongside everything else you get with the monk, you do get some abilities and a game or tools of your choice, or an instrument. I went for the horn. Take one that you think is more fitting. Violin feels like a good one. I just like the violin. I went for acrobatics and religion as the two skills here, both of which I thought were fitting, like perfectly so. We also get martial arts as a level 1 monk, which gives us the ability to use simple melee weapons and martial melee weapons that have the light property, and we can use our monk die when we're hitting with those. We can also make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, and we can use a d6 instead of the normal damage for our unarmed strikes. Can't wear armor or use a shield to get any of this stuff though. We can always use our dex instead of our strength to not only attack, but also to grapple and shove, all of which is good. We also get a base AC of 10 plus our dex and our wisdom, which at this point puts us at 16 AC, which is pretty respectable for a monk. Level 2, we get Monk's Focus. This is where you get your focus points. This unlocks Patient Defense, which allows us to disengage as a bonus action. Alternatively, we can spend 1 focus point to disengage and dodge. We can Flurry of Blows, which will be what we're doing for damage, for the damage check-ins, which allows you to spend 1 focus point to make 2 attacks as a bonus action. And we can also Step of the Wind, which is perhaps the most important part of the fantasy here, as it allows you to dash as a bonus action. Specifically, it reads you can take the dash action as a bonus action, which is important for stuff later on. If we Step of the Wind and we spend a focus point as well, we can disengage and dash at the same point. The Patient Defense and Step of the Wind really help the monk survive despite not getting great AC later on for a lot of the classes, so do keep that in mind. We also get Uncanny Metabolism, which lets us, when we roll initiative, regain all of our focus points once per long rest, and we also get health points equal to our martial arts die plus our monk level, which is nice. Once per long rest again. Level 3 next, and we get our subclass. There were a few options here. I have gone with the Warrior of Cosmic Balance from Chaosium, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I want to just highlight the Warrior of the Celestial. Feels like that would be really, really cool. That's from Griffin's Saddlebag. And the Warrior of Mercy and Warrior of Shadow also feel like they could be good fits if you're using first-party versions for this, but the Warrior of Cosmic Balance is literally all about teleportation and cosmic gates, and I cannot think of anything more fitting than that for Nightcrawler. As a monk, we get Deflect Attacks at level 3, which allows us to use our reaction to reduce incoming bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage by 1d10 plus our dex mod plus our monk level, which adds up pretty quickly. And if you reduce the damage to 0, you can spend a focus point to redirect some of the damage to a creature nearby. For our subclass abilities though, we get Guardian of the Way technique. This allows us to, once per turn, when we hit a creature with an unarmed strike or with a flurry of blows and deal damage, you can stop the target teleporting or using planar travel until the end of your next turn, or you can make them teleport 15 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. So you can actually chuck them at your friends to deal with, which I think is really cool. You also get both Detect Magic and Comprehend Languages, always prepared. You can cast these once without a spell slot or components, and then can't use them until you finish a long rest, or you expend 1 focus point to restore your use of the spell, which is nice. A little bit of utility. It's worth noting that this is not going to be a damage build. I'll note the damage numbers, but it's really more about control and utility with this subclass. We're not going for crazy over the top damage per round, but all of that is pretty cool, it has to be said. Level 4, we get our first feat. We also get slow fall, which allows us to take a reaction to reduce the fall damage we would take by 5 times your monk level, which goes up really quickly, as it turns out. And we get the feat that we want for Nightcrawler specifically, which is Fey Sentinel. This requires you to have the Fey Pact feat, which is why we took it. It allows us to boost our intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. So we're going to boost our wisdom up to 16. So now we're actually at 16 AC. We would have 15 before. That's fine. When an enemy misses you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to become invisible until the start of your next turn, or until after you make an attack roll, deal damage, or cast a spell. You can only do this once per long rest. You get Nature's Root, so you always get the Entangle spell prepared. You can cast it once for free, or you can use spell casting things, which we don't have. You also get the Plant Growth spell at level 5. Those are nice, but not stuff we're going to be using especially. The main thing we want here is Phase Shift. When you take the dash action, you can forego the extra movement to teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within distance equal to half your speed instead. At level 2, we also picked up Unarmored Movement, which boosts our speed by 10, which means that we are at 40 movement speed already. So that is a 20-foot teleport, twice a turn, potentially, if you want to use your bonus action to take the dash action, thanks to Step of the Wind, or you may want to do it as a main action. You can do that. Lots of teleporting. You can also teleport other people when you hit them, so we are teleporting all of the things constantly. Level 5, a few things happen. We get extra attack, which allows us to attack twice when we use the attack action, and Stunning Strike, so that once per turn, when you hit a creature with a monk weapon or unarmed strike, you can expend a focus point to make the target have to do a con save. On a failed save, they gain the stun condition until the start of your next turn, and on a successful save, the target's speed is halved, and the next attack roll against them has advantage. It's pretty helpful, to say the least. We also get an upgrade to our damage die. It goes up to a D8 now. All of which means we're doing 21.33 damage, assuming you are shouting at your DM just as initiative is rolling that you have cast Stalker's Eye on yourself, or you're just constantly doing that. Otherwise, it's 18.9, but the difference is relatively negligible. Before we continue on, I just want to say if you're enjoying this, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to how the videos perform overall. It's very exciting stuff and not at all boring and analytically. I also want to give a huge thank you to my YouTube members and my Patreon members. I think it's real weird that you're giving me money, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you. You're all wonderful people, and it makes it a little more justifiable how much time I spend on all of this stuff. So thank you very much. You can also join a Discord if you want to come talk about all this stuff, with links in the description. I think that's everything. Level 6, we got to plus 15 movement, so we can now teleport 42.5 feet. Nice normal amount of teleport, 22.5 even. We also get empowered strikes so that we can deal force damage instead of normal damage, and we get Warden of Harmony, which allows you to take a reaction if someone within 60 feet of you attempts to teleport, and spend 1 focus point to stop them teleporting. This could be really useful depending on the kind of campaign you're in, and it just helps cement the idea that Nightcrawler is the master of teleportation, which is just super fun. Level 7, we get Evasion, which allows us to, when we take a dex save, take half damage on a fail and no damage on a success. You have not lived until you have succeeded on several Dragon's Breath attacks and a Meteor Swarm with this ability and just taken no damage. It is a joy and something I recommend everyone try at least once. Level 8, I am going to take the Grappler feat. If Nightcrawler is a master of hand-to-hand combat, which is what he is listed as being, then being able to hold your opponents makes sense, and it also gives us advantage on pretty much all of our attack rolls. Our first attack roll will have advantage because of Stalker's Eye, and the following ones will have advantage because we have the creature grappled, as long as they can be grappled by you. We can also move them without using movement speed. Extra movement speed, which is nice. This doesn't work against creatures more than 1 size larger than you, which is rough unless you've got someone casting it large on you, which is a fun way to do it if that's what you want to do. But it's still a pretty consistent boost to our overall chance to hit. Level 9, we get Acrobatic Movement, which allows us to move along vertical surfaces and liquids on your turn without falling during their movement, which is just cool. We can teleport and then run across a wall and then teleport again. What's not to love? Frankly. Level 10, we get heightened. We get a lot, actually, at level 10. Level 10, our movement goes up to plus 20, so we can now teleport 20 feet without issue. We get self-restoration, which allows you to, at the end of your turn, remove the charmed, frightened, or poisoned condition, and you also can't gain exhaustion from not drinking or eating, which is weird, but cool. And we also get heightened focus, which boosts our 3 martial arts abilities. Step of the Wind now allows you to move a creature that is willing within 5 feet of yourself when you spend a focus point on that, which is great for moving your allies out of or into trouble. I have used it many times myself on my high level monk, where I've dragged one of the frontliners with me as I've dashed into battle. Patient defense now gives you temp health equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die when you use a focus point on it, which is great. And focus flurry of blows allows you to now hit 3 times instead of 2 times, which is 1 whole extra attack. That is 5 attacks at level 10. You love to see it. All of this means that our damage is now up to 38.31, which is respectable for having literally no damage boosts in our subclass. Level 11, we get Cosmic Restoration. This allows you to, as a bonus action, choose a willing creature, and you can end all spells of your choice currently affecting the target, or remove a condition of your choice. Blinded, charmed, deafened. You can reduce a level of exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, or stunned. You can only do this once per long rest, or you can restore your use of it by expending 4 focus points. This really leans into Nightcrawler being a support and a very caring and empathetic character, I think, and it's also just kind of nifty. Level 12, we get another ASI. I am going to take Speedy. This gives us another 10 feet of speed, which is lovely. It means we are now up to 60 feet of speed. I'm pretty sure I misspoke at the last speed thing. It was plus 20, which is 50, not 40. I'm tired. You know, shocking twist. Anyway, this takes us up to 60. It also means that when we take the dash action, difficult terrain doesn't affect us, and opportunity attacks against us have disadvantage. This is pretty good on a monk because you can dash as a bonus action, which allows you to gain some of the extra benefits more often, basically. And while it's not as meaningful on us, ignoring the difficult terrain because we can just teleport everywhere, there are always going to be times when that's useful, and same with the opportunity attacks. It also boosts our dex up to 19, which is, you know, good. Level 13, we get Deflect Energy, so our Deflect attacks works against absolutely everything. I have finished off enemies as they tried to hit me with big old axes dealing force damage. It's quite the time to be alive. I really like the monk. Level 14, our movement goes up to plus 25. We now have 65 feet of movement, which is pretty darn quick. This is where we get proficiency in all saving throws, which is just preposterously good. And it also allows us to, if we fail a saving throw, spend 1 focus point to re-roll it, which gives you a better chance of succeeding everything, basically. Level 15, we get Perfect Focus, which allows us to gain expended focus points until we have at least 4, if we have 3 or fewer when we roll initiative, if we don't use Uncanny Metabolism, which is cool. This subclass isn't that heavy on focus points, so it just means you've got 4 turns of Flurry of Blows, probably. This also gives us our next damage check-in, which we're up to 43.57, which is okay between the 5 attacks. Like I said, we've got no damage boost in the subclass at all. It's just utility and control, which is never a bad thing. Level 16, I am going to take a damage increase 1. I'm going to take Focused Critical to take our dex up to 20. I do think there's good arguments for Street Justice here if you want to be holding enemies while you're grappling them and giving other creatures advantage on hits against them. Also Charger, because you can be moving towards creatures, things like that. There are other options, but Focus Critical is just too tempting. 17, we get our maxed out damage die for our monk abilities. We go to a d12, and we, once per turn, when we hit with the creature with the unarmed strike, can use 3 points to cast Banishment, targeting that creature with Wisdom as our spellcasting ability for it. Banishment is a very good spell, and being able to once per turn cast it for just 3 focus points gives us a lot of chances to take creatures out of the fight, and again leans into the idea of Nightcrawler being able to trap people in this teleport dimension, which I don't think is something he can do in the comics, but it's probably something he has done at least once, because comics. Let me know, I guess. But nicely. Let me know nicely. Level 18, we get our final movement boost up to plus 30, which is actually plus 40 because of Speedy, which means we have 70 feet of movement, which means as our bonus action, if we're using a dash as either a bonus action or an action, we can teleport 35 feet or gain the movement speed, which is pretty good. We also get Superior Defense, which allows you to, at the start of your turn, spend 3 focus points to give yourself resistant to everything apart from force damage. This is what I mean when I say that monks get very tanky in the late game. Level 19, we get an epic boon, and while I don't generally like these, one of these does have a lot of flavor to it, and that is the Dimensional Travel boon. This allows you to boost any ability of your choice. Wisdom or Dex is fine, and when you take the attack action or magic action, you can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. It's just 1 free teleport a turn, basically. I just think it fits. Our final ability is one of my favorite capstones, which is Body and Mind. This gives us +4 to both our dexterity and our wisdom, which is good. as it turns out, makes our saves harder to save against, it makes our attacks more likely to hit, it makes them deal more damage, and it makes our saving throws better as well. So we're doing very, very well here. This boosts our damage up to 58.24. This is not fantastic damage. As I said, the subclass does literally nothing for our damage. However, we can banish people when we hit them. We can teleport them when we hit them. We can do all sorts, and we can constantly be teleporting too. We can Step of the Wind and take allies with us. We can literally control the battlefield with all of our mix of abilities, and I just think it would be a lot of fun to play. I've actually started using my monk as more of a battlefield controller and less of a damage character, despite the fact he hits like a truck thanks to some cool magic items, and I'm having a blast repositioning people as needed to get spellcasters in or out of danger, and so on and so forth. So this would be a lot of fun to play as long as you don't mind taking a slight backseat in a more supportive role. But that is it for Nightcrawler. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed putting this one together. This is actually one of the trickier ones, purely because I wasn't sure about which class to take. But given the choice between a monk and a rogue, I will generally take the monk. I like to punch things. However, I will be doing a gambit build soon, and that is probably going to be a monk, at least mostly. So you can look forward to that. But that is it for now. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you are well and you continue to do well. I hope that you have a wonderful week ahead of you. I think we'll have reviews this probably, based on the cadence of D&D Beyond releases. So Valda Spire of Secrets, hopefully. So that's exciting. Look forward to those in the coming days, if that has released on the Tuesday after this releases. If not, I'll see you Thursday for another video. I haven't decided what I'm doing yet, but we'll get there. But that's it. Yeah, do take care of yourself. Check out some other build videos. We've got Thor and, I guess, Spider-Man are both Marvel characters. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.